Hello, good morning, everybody. This is the EASA webinar of the EASA Safety Week. And today we are going to look into aerodrome and ground handling safety. Thank you very much for joining us for this session that will last 1.5 hours, where we want to explore with you and with professionals and specialists on how we can prepare ourselves for this summer. We have seen in the last summer, and this summer, we are also expecting the same thing, a robust recovery and high passenger demand for aviation again. And this has certainly put the spotlight on aviation and specifically on airports and ground handling operations. We all know that airports are complex ecosystem, and the question is, how can we actually work better together so we can enhance safety and optimize operations in this complex ecosystem? So today, together with you, we want to focus on concrete solutions that work, and we hope that the Safety Week allows us all to share good practices and to learn from each other. My name is Julia Egerer. I'm the section manager at EASA of the Aerodrome and Ground Handling section. And I am accompanied today by very professional speakers from industry, from the airport and ground handling industry and from EASA. And I would like to now give the floor to my colleague Florent Morel from EASA, who will give us an overview of where we are in the airport and ground handling domain with regards to occurrence reporting. I already see that one of you has sent a Slido question, which is about just culture. So occurrence reporting is very much linked to just culture. And he will give us an overview on where we are with occurrence reporting in Europe overall in this industry of airport and ground handling. Just before I move to you, Florent, a quick information for all of you. We are live streaming this event on YouTube. We are also monitoring your comments in YouTube. But for those of you joining us via the webinar, WebEx event, please use the Slido function that is popping up here on your screen on the right-hand bottom side of the screen. You will be able to post your question there, and then you're also able to vote for your favorite question. And we will, of course, tackle those questions first. And I will make sure as the moderator that we will have 20 minutes for Slido questions after the discussion with the panelists. So, floor is yours. Florent, let us know.
Thank you very much, Julia. As Julia said, I will present to you to give perspectives the occurrence reporting volumes that we have in the European Central Repository that is fed by many reports reported under Regulation 376/2014 on occurrence reporting and analysis of aviation safety occurrence in Europe. So to give a bit the perspective of what are the volumes and proportions of reports of aerodrome and ground handlers with regards to the total number of occurrence. I would like to show you 2-3 visualizations that can really illustrate that. What you see here is the distribution of the main type of organizations reporting under this regulation into the ECR. And you see that out of these 600,000 reports over 8 years of data since 2015 until last year, what represents the share that comes from ground handling organization and aerodrome operators. So aggregated in Europe over the last 8 years, you see that it represents for aerodrome operator 11% of the report and ground handling organizations 4%. So it's quite a small share of the total, the biggest part being from the aircraft operator and also the ANSP.
Oh, can you share the PowerPoint now that you're in the 3D mode?
Of course. So here you see it in a bit bigger format. Now, if we concentrate on the occurrences that are related to aerodrome and ground handling events, that of course depend on the quality of the categorization of the data, you see that here we have 17% of the total of the occurrences that are related to aerodrome and ground handling occurrences. And if we look at the scope and look again at the distribution of who reports these kind of occurrences, you see that, of course, a ground handling and aerodrome operator reports more in this category, which makes sense, but it's still a minority compared to the total occurrences reported related to aerodrome and ground handling events. To give another perspective, if we look now over these 8 years, year by year, how did it evolve over the 8 years since the regulation 376 is in place? It entered into force in 2015. You see on the left side that in absolute numbers, the columns, it grew. There is, of course, this decrease over the lower activity period in 2020 and 21 due to the COVID restriction. But if you look at the rate of occurrence, so the number of occurrence divided by the number of airport movement in Europe, you see that it continues to grow, which is a good sign in terms of reporting over 2020 and 21. There is a slight decrease in 2022, but overall, we see that the reporting of aerodrome and ground handling occurrences is improving. If you look at the right now, and again, looking at which type of organization reports, we see that the share that you have in orange at the lower part of the columns is the ground handling organization. In proportion of the total, the ground handling organization is not increasing. We are still around 10–11%. Whereas for the aerodrome operators that are in pink, just above, you see that we see clearly an improvement of the reporting in proportion of the total report reported for such kind of occurrences. So it shows the evolutions of over the year, and that overall it's improved, but there is still an effort to be put, especially on ground handling organizations all over Europe. And what we don't see here is that the reporting and this picture is quite different from a country to another, and there is a lot of heterogeneous trends depending on the countries, and we need to continue to work on the occurrence reporting all over Europe. The last visualization I would like to show you at a very high level, again aggregated over the 8 years for aerodrome and ground handling events. If we just go one level more into the details, we see which type of events are reported. 1/4 of it being the aerodrome and aerodrome management services. Behind, you have mainly actually foreign object damage control that is hidden behind that. And then other type, vehicle and equipment, so it's mainly all collision or collision between vehicles, equipment, the aircraft, or the personnel. Security events, dangerous goods, wildlife controls, baggage handling and loading, and cargo handling and loading are what represents, let's say, more than 2/3 of the occurrences reported. So we will not show it here, but what we are trying to do is, of course, to dig within all these shares to know exactly what happened, what is the level of risks, and we are trying to monitoring it on a monthly basis, and especially for this summer, we will make sure to monitor it in the ECR now with the data analytics tools that we can have to have the best idea of the diagnosis that is possible via the occurrence reporting. So in a nutshell, occurrence reporting is improving. There is still a lot of work to do, and we are making sure to take the best added value of it through digging in all of these occurrences that are stored in the European Central Repository. Thank you, Julia.
Thank you very much, Laurent, for this very good introduction, looking at the data and the facts and what we see from a European global perspective, what's happening in Europe. You will definitely see these slides again, because we are now in the process of preparing our opinion on developing a completely new regulatory framework in Europe to ensure that ground handling organizations are also fully covered by the EU aviation safety regulatory framework. So definitely we will use your research and your analysis again in our rulemaking on ground handling. And now I would like to move to the next speakers, Marco Maderna from Milan Airport, SEA, and Stuart Carmichael from Menzies Aviation.
Good morning. Good morning, Julia.
Good morning. Who are going to let us, or who are going to share with us their experience on how safety actually works in action, and specifically with a focus on the local runway safety teams, how they actually work for them in Milan, and the lessons that they have learned, what works, what doesn't work, and what we can all learn from that. And Marco is actually joining us today on a very special day because his airport, Milano Malpensa, is opening a new terminal today. So thank you very much for making the time out of your busy schedule to join us today. And congratulations, and I hope that everything will run smoothly. Could you just please explain to us and the audience how you see the role of a local runway safety team that is loosely described in the Aerodrome Safety Regulatory Framework, how you think it helps you to increase safety, improve operations, how you've set it up at SEA Airport, who actually attends these meetings, and why, especially why you think a local runway safety team is useful for your airport. The floor is yours.
Absolutely. So good morning, Julia, and good morning, everybody. The first question is, can you see my screen, my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Yes, very good. So I say good morning, Julia. Good morning, everybody connected for the Safety Week. For us, it's a pleasure to attend this workshop and have the possibility to share with the audience how we structured our local runway safety team. So in doing so, now I should change the next slide. Okay. Hopefully you can see it.
Yes.
In doing so, I prepared a few slides for you. And let's start, first of all, with the definition. So what we define to be the local runway safety team implemented at Malpensa Airport. So our committee, as per ICAO definition, is dedicated to improve safety into the maneuvering area by analyzing and evaluating the operation and safety data that we collect. We do analyze as well any emerging threats, any lesson learned, and definitely provide a single forum for data sharing with the stakeholder actually present at the airport, aiming to contribute and promote adoption of corrective or in case some preventive measure to contain and reduce the runway incursion, runway excursion problem. That is actually the definition that you can see at the center page of the slide, and what is the local runway safety team that we set up at Milan Airport. As you can see on the left slide, on the left part of the slide, actually, we carry over 2 airports. In this case, we talk about Malpensa, but of course, Linate is as well in the pipeline for us. And about the attendance, so who is on the attendance list during the local runway safety team, we definitely have some pilot union representative, followed by airline personnel as well. We definitely have ATC provider, the ground handling, which play a big role during the local runway safety team, as main of the action are performed by the ground handler service provider. And last but not least, the firefighting personnel present to our airport. About the frequency, so how often do we have a local runway safety team? It's definitely very much depends on needs, especially when we need to tackle some change. But we can say that definitely we have not less than 4 per year. But we have a monthly safety committee that we have every month at both airports. So it makes 24 safety committee per year, consider the 2 airports, followed by 4 local runway safety team per airport. Now, I would like to show you a bit more about the strengths of our local runway safety team. You say how it contributes to boost your safety. Well, to give you some pragmatic answer to this question, I can confirm you that working together with the Aerodrome community to review ground safety report data and safety threats, it definitely is one of the key points that we want to mention, as it creates teamwork. You can see it as well on the center page of the slide. This teamwork spirit and increase the meaning of our airport community. Probably another point to underline is the application of the shared management of change process among the work community at the airport, as most of the time, some normally brainstorming and meeting that we implement, it trigger to the next change, to the next level of change that need to be implemented. No matter if it's a procedural change or an infrastructural change, most of this local runway safety team, it ends up with something to change. So that's another point, actually, the share of management change. And the last item, but not least, definitely, I do believe is a valuable asset, is the sharing idea and proposal for the implementation that could contribute to a better working place condition or could boost our safety operation. So in this case, we definitely have a common identification of a local problem. And if I can summarize what we just saw on this slide, I do believe that for us, what is meaning the local running safety team, probably I will pick up these three words that we have at the center page: teamwork, as we create a strong attendance and fruitful collaboration through the stakeholder; trust, as we share common experience and aim for a better result of our airport safety; and definitely transparency, as we don't hide anything during our meeting, and we completely share the performance review of each other, just applying what is just culture concept.
Thank you very much for this introduction to how you do a local runway safety team and how it fits within your safety culture of your airport. Now let's move to the concrete example of opening up the new terminal today. Could you explain to us how it now really works in practice using this example or any other example that you want to choose, and how the local runway safety team helped you as an airport to manage safety and to improve the operations with this concrete case?
So I will try to summarize this last 5 months job in this one unique slide. It's not very easy, but I will try to do my best, I promise. So the sample which I picked up to show pragmatically how the local runway safety team really work in practice is this one. So we have to go with a takeoff runway available reduction on runway 35 right that you see on your screen due to some aerodrome works to build an underground rail link in airside. While at the same time, we finally went for the decision to reopen the Terminal 2 at Malpensa, as you mentioned just before, after 3 years of closure due to pandemic of COVID. On top of this, but at the same time, actually, a new ground handling service provider, which is Menzies, it started its operation dedicated to one of the biggest European airline operator, EasyJet, at Terminal 2. So these multiple challenge, high threats that are analyzed and mitigated with the whole aerodrome community, as we mentioned before. To give you some element to consider, we basically went for an important reduction of this runway of about 800 meters. And this, of course, triggers a lot of change that we manage with the application of the shared management of change, which was shared. It's a shared process, as we mentioned before, with the community as one team. So to give you some practical sample, the runway reduction required the installation of a temporary instrumenting landing system, the ILS, which was downgraded to Cat 1, in order to support this planning operation, especially for the big aircraft like the Airbus 380. And additionally, together with our ATC provider, which is ENAC for Italy, we conducted a safety and capacity study where some items were resulted as necessary to be modified. So for instance, we amended the airport code F chart, which is a document included in the aerodrome manual. just to allow taxi operation and ground movement safe in regard of taxiway clearance mainly. And because, of course, a new runway utilization scenario, we adopt as well our emergency plan in order to guarantee safe operation, even during the declaration of emergency in case of. So a big part of ground circulation of aircraft was amended. And this has a big impact even on the aeronautical publication that we amended. And how we tackle this, how we perform this actually. We did it by shared hazard identification process with the community of local runway safety team, followed by a safety assessment that was, I think, successfully set up. And currently the operation I just described it. So we have this reduction of runway of almost 1 kilometer, which will last for 5-6 months. And we have big aircraft flying safely into our aerodrome. Necessary relevant information were published in the Aerodrome Information Official Repository. The second element, which overlap with this previous one, is the, as you mentioned correctly before, the reopening of Terminal 2, that for a nice coincidence happened today. So I apologize for my voice, but it was a long night shift and was approaching probably to its conclusion. Definitely gave us some good vibes to the whole community. So the Gantt chart for the preparation of this new change, reopening of Terminal 2 in red, plus additionally a new ground handling service provider operating at the Terminal 2, started probably in June, July 2022, where we set up our usual meeting with partner and stakeholder to approach it according to our procedure in place. And what I can say that apart from landside operation, which basically were not of our interest, we concentrated our effort to review the past performance in light of safety performance, analyzing previous ground safety report that were issued in the past year, especially on the north part of this apron, so the Terminal 2, aiming to review, validate or not previous procedure belonging to apron management, describing to our manual, and mainly to strong for our personnel. To take this important change, actually, if I may conclude, we establish an intensive monitoring activity with support of our safety agent observation, and establish regular weekly meeting with Menzies team to review and discuss the main topic that were arising during the week. And I think the sense of teamwork here expressed itself at its best, as we definitely went for a cooperative risk assessment, that which is actually even the aim of the ICAO definition.
Very good. So thank you very much, Marco, for sharing this concrete example with us and the audience on such a special day where you had a very long night shift, I can just imagine. And congratulations again to your airport for opening today the new terminal. Congratulations from our side, and thanks again for making the time. You still have another slide. We are running a little bit short in time. Is there something you would like to highlight here?
Yeah, I will be very pragmatic. Actually, I want to share with the audience the effectiveness of past local runway safety team that we had in the past. So in terms of safety improvement during this year, with the contribution of the stakeholder, we were able to success in some important milestone, I presume, which are, for instance, the installation of anti-intrusion microwave detector at every category holding position at both airports, Malpensa and Linate, and you can see them in this light blue square. Identify airport hotspots and additionally install stop bar, which are continuously operative, so H24, 365 days a year, in every weather condition, so not only in low visibility procedure. And that this is actually an element that enhances the safety operation. And last but not least, actually identifies additional safety layer, the keeping of runway ahead sign, for instance. So during the local runway safety team, we decided to maintain, and then we went for the application of a special condition with our authority. It was just few examples to mention how we measure effectiveness, and I just wanted to share this last slide with you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So we heard the theory, we heard a concrete example of opening a new terminal, and you also gave us some highlights from the past of where the local runway safety team has really helped you as an airport to collaboratively work together and to share data and make sure that operations run smoothly. And you also mentioned, Marco, you mentioned Menzies Aviation, and we have now Stuart Carmichael from Menzies Aviation. Thank you very much for joining us as well as a panelist. Menzies Aviation has been mentioned by Marco Maderna from Milan Airport because you are the ground handler that he referred to that took over completely new operations at Milan Airport. You also were mentioned because it was you had to deal with it during a big change management process. So what were actually the main challenges from your point of view, Stuart, when you started completely from scratch, as far as I understand, your new ground handling operations in Milan? While at the same time Milan was preparing for the move to a new terminal, and you also then had to move to the new terminal, of course. What have you learned from this challenging experience that you would like to share with the audience? The floor is yours.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me today. So yeah, it's certainly been a very challenging 3 months. So as you say, brand new entry into Italy and into Milan, which is fantastic, on the basis that within 12 weeks of go live, we were moving to a new terminal. And also, obviously, we had the summer readiness program as well. So 3 areas that we needed to make sure that we overcome. Marco, could I just ask you to go to the next slide, please? So I think what I've done is tried to break it down into some of the key pillars that we worked for based on the challenges that we identified. So as you said, the main challenges was a brand new operation into a new country, you know, unfamiliar with the airport infrastructure and ways of working, and also 330 new employees that joined the business. So just to give everybody a flavour, we went live on the 1st of March. We have 21 EasyJet-based aircraft in Malpensa, just over 24,000 turns a year. We welcomed 330 new employees initially into the Menzies family. We had to organise 228 new pieces of GSE into the operation. Pleased to say that 85% of that is electric, which is fantastic. And then it was also about building resilience within our European network to be able to provide that support for the go live. So we had a number of individuals from our operation across Spain, Romania, Czech Republic, and the UK to provide that. But one of the key things was we have a Menzies in a box, which we use for new startups, new go lives, new customers, and that Menzies in the box is made up with a number of different toolkits, and within that toolkits are the work streams. So the ones I just wanted to focus on today very briefly was the people, training, safety, security, operational readiness, and GSE planning. People, you know, obviously being our number one asset is our people, and we need to make sure that we have the right people, the right training in the right place at the right time to be able to deliver a safe and secure operation. But one thing that came out of the work streams, and we haven't necessarily seen it before on this level, was it quickly became apparent that we had an additional work stream, and that was with SEA. And I've got to say the relationship started extremely well. They were very welcoming to Menzies coming into Milan. They provided additional training slots to allow us to push the people through the training requirement, because as you can imagine, that was very intense. They provided additional support. Marco and I managed to get together quite early in the new partnership, in the new relationship, and started that one-to-one engagement, which I think, you know, is fair to say cascaded down both businesses. You know, we were invited to the local safety forums, which was brilliant. We asked them to provide additional oversight and be our eyes and ears in the operation. So almost a weekly update on a Friday of, areas that we need to focus on, areas that we need to improve on, where do they see any emerging risks, and that's in addition and above to what we were currently doing as well. And actually that work stream made all the difference, and I think it was one of the key aspects for us having such a successful startup. And a startup is one thing, but then it's about sustainability, and it's about making sure that you're embedding your operation. And yeah, the partnership was brilliant, the collaboration was brilliant, and where we needed assistance, because like I say, it was a new country of operation, they were very helpful. In terms of some of the other things that we focused on, obviously training. Training was a big key. We had a vast number of new starters, some that 2P'd across from the existing ground handler, and probably around 200 brand new employees into the business. Mm-hmm. So there was a comprehensive training package. There was gap analysis between the previous ground handler and Menzies, and obviously then the gap analysis as well between the Menzies standards and anything unique and specific to Milan Airport. It was then the rollout of the risk management system. So we have Morse, which is our safety management system. We've got Smart, which is our quality control. We've got Q5 from an auditing point of view. Our 8-pillar program. So actually we'll be out there within the next sort of 30 to 60 days, my corporate team doing an 8-pillar assessment. So this is looking at all the pillars of the business to make sure that we're on the right track. The launch of the safety light system and our risk assessments and LOP programs. So they're kind of the key areas that we focused on in partnership with Milan Airport.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Stuart, for taking us through your experience. I'm sure it was quite a challenge, especially in today's environment where getting new staff is becoming difficult in all areas of our industry and specifically in ground handling. So the hiring of 200 new staff plus then retraining that staff that you took over from the previous ground handling organization must have been a huge challenge. You also mentioned that you worked so well with the Aerodrome and they were your eyes and ears. I can already see you have good collaboration because Marco Maderna was actually sharing the slides together with you. That is good. That's good to see. But it's basically building up on what we said before, this transparency and trust that you were able to develop together, and then you were able to tackle this challenge. So thank you so much for sharing this experience with us. I would like to encourage the audience before we move to the next slot and where we look into occurrence reporting and ground handling to please use the Slido. I'm only seeing one question. Is that correct?
There is 5.
Oh, there's 5.
In the
review.
So it just probably means that I don't have a full overview. So if I could please ask my colleagues here in the studio to make sure that those questions are moved to the visibility so everybody can see the questions, because I'm not able to do that. Thank you so much. Yeah, so thank you for your questions. That's very good. Please keep on sending your questions as the speakers go along. This will enable us to steer the discussion later on to make sure that we tackle the things that are most important for you. We have a lot of participants, almost 400 participants that are joining us today. And in order to keep the motto and move to the next slot, I would like to now introduce our next 2 speakers who are joining us from France. We have Nicolas Vernès from DGAC France and Mathieu Compiègne from Group Europe Handling. And of course, we know that the role of the competent authority is very important. Marco Maderna from Milan Airport already alluded to the role of ENAC, of course, in opening a new terminal and everything. But also in France, the competent authority plays an important role, especially when it comes to occurrence reporting in ground handling. And especially when we know, as we have seen from Florent Morel from EASA, that actually occurrence reporting in ground handling is still very low. So when we were preparing for the safety week and we met together with the panelists, we realized that France has embarked for many, many years on a very successful campaign to increase the level of ground handling reporting. And this started, of course, in 2014 with the ground handling regulation. But since 2014, France has been very active with targeted campaigns. And we would like to now hear from you, Nicolas. How do you see it from your competent authority point of view? How have you actually managed to increase the level of ground handling reporting in France? We've seen from my colleague Florent that overall the level for ground handling has remained stable, but I think in France, probably we have seen an increase. So how did you do it?
Okay, good morning, everybody. So Julia, I just let you share my presentation because I have some technical problems. It gives me some time just to introduce myself. I'm Nicolas Verne. I'm working for the French Civil Aviation, specifically responsible for the ground handling monitoring team. Yeah, you can go to the next slide. Just to answer your question, I guess that the key point is that we have a strong relation between ground handlers and the Civil Aviation Authority, and it depends on the dedicated team from which I'm responsible. Because this team deals with the occurrence reporting from ground handlers, and it's a constant. It creates a constant link between the civil aviation and the ground handlers. In fact, we review every month more than 400 reports, and the idea is to assess the quantity, of course, but the quality of self-reporting. And the thing is that if we are not really good about the quality of the reports, we get in touch with the ground handler and we challenge them, and the idea is just to improve the quality of reporting. The second thing is that this monthly review has the aim to identify an increasing rate about a known risk, but also to have a look on new risk appearance, and we can see it by reading all the occurrence reporting that I just mentioned. And the idea is, thanks to all these reports, to select relevant reports regarding the description of what happened and the safety consequences. Also, the way the ground handler analyzed the problem. If also there are some relevant pictures just to illustrate the risk and the consequence, and also if the ground handlers put some relevant corrective action. So the thing is that we select these relevant reports to make something with it, and you can go to the next slide. Yeah. And I guess that the main idea is, if you want the ground handler to report, you have to show that the occurrence reporting is useful. And in fact, when I told you that we select relevant reports, the idea is to make something with it. And we have several tools, in fact, and one of our safety promotion tool is a national safety publication called Tarmac, that is made on topics that arise from the reports I just mentioned. So in fact, we select relevant occurrence reports, and then we are building the publication on one single topic that is divided into several topics. And so you can detail the risk, you can explain the safety consequences, and also give on every subtopics good practice and also positive feedbacks from the ground handler. And if you want to click on the link Tarmac number 18, so I'm really sorry for the audience, it's not translated, not yet, but just to show you how it looks like. I don't know if it's going to work.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah,
yes.
That's it. And in fact, every 2 months there is a Tarmac publication, and it looks like this. So you have the main theme, then you can go under, and then you have subtopics. At the end of each subtopics, just go over. Yeah. At the end of each subtopics, you have the good practices. Again. Yeah, this is it, the good practices. And you have also some, I told you, positive feedback. We try to illustrate the risk with the international investigation report that can show the real safety consequences. And we also use all the safety promotion tools in this national publication, such as video, and I'm going to show it to you. So you can just go back to the presentation, maybe.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, and yeah, okay. And also, that strong relation I just mentioned is also, I think, based on the cooperation we have with ground handler. And specifically, as I told you, we use the review, the monthly review, to raise, in fact, the new risk. And when we build our new risk map, so the former one dates back from 2020, and right now we are building one that goes from 2023 to 2028. And we made several meetings just to be sure that the new risks that we see through the reports that the ground handler made are real and are validated by them. So again, there is a cooperation, and we go together in the same direction just to improve, in fact, the safety. Also, we have safety events, so we can do some local safety forums, depending on topics that we can see through the reports or on demand from ground handlers. And in fact, in 2015, there was the annual safety symposium of the Civil Aviation Authority that was made on the ground handling operation. And in fact, as I told you, there were safety promotion tools. And so we produced flyers, posters, but also thematic videos. And maybe you can click on this link, and this is just to apologize for the untranslation of tarmac. So these videos are translated, and I just can tell you that just feel free to use it, but because I think that the safety problems that we have in France, you can have also in other countries. So just maybe show an example of how this video looks like. And I just maybe you can send it.
We have our
Crossing the taxiway. Ground operations are often carried out on tight schedules.
Nadia, change of stand. Your flight finally arrives in Fox 22. Hurry up.
Okay, it's not near. I'll get there as soon as possible. We're all going to Fox 22.
However, confusing speed with haste can cause material damage and endanger air and ground crew. Failure to maintain a safe distance before or after an aircraft passes can have serious consequences. Do not underestimate the consequences of the blast of a jet engine, which can reach 100 kilometers an hour just a few meters away from the aircraft. Even when the aircraft is taxiing, it can damage or even roll a vehicle over. In 2015, the windows of 2 buses parked on a remote station exploded under the sole effect of the jet blast of an aircraft parking nearby. Several passengers on board were injured by glass shards. Plus, failing to give way to an aircraft during pushback, taxiing, or parking may result in sudden braking and injure the flight attendants performing the pre-flight safety demonstration. 5 rules are essential to guarantee the safety of all. Always give way to aircrafts, even during pushback and parking. Make a full stop to locate all the aircrafts. A plane could be hidden behind another, and the traffic direction can change at any moment. Always leave a safe distance before and after an aircraft passes. Similarly, anticipate the time required to cross a taxiway, which can be up to 10 times wider than a standard lane. Finally, pay attention to the noises, especially in case of poor visibility. Lay the ground for a safe flight.
Thank
Okay,
you so
perfect, Julia. Thank you. So here are example of the safety promotion tools that we produce based on the current reporting from ground handler. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Nicola. It shows again that you are taking this very serious, your role as a competent authority, and I hope that we also have a lot of competent authorities here on our stream today, on our webinar, and we are happy to share this link. The presentations will be uploaded on our website, and it actually includes the link, but I also saw, Nicola, that you put the link already in the chat function of this webinar, so that's great. Thank you so much. Also, the videos is a very good idea. I have 2 kids, and whenever I tell them to look into their school books, they just tell me, no, I will just watch a video. So that's actually the way that you reach people today, and you make them engaged and make them understand the topic. So you use also this way of videos, which is, I think, a very good idea. But you also have a very consistent approach whereby you try to develop this all together with the industry stakeholders. And we have now Mathieu.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, good morning from ground handling company Group Europe Ground Handling. So your competent authority takes this quite seriously and you're working well with them, I hope. We also know that you have a very important role to play, of course, making sure that you have a good reporting culture in your organization. So that also requires a good safety culture. We had actually one of the first questions today in the webinar was about just culture and safety culture. So how does your company, Group Europe Handling, actually implement just culture in ground handling, and how did your authority support you in doing that? So what are the main challenges and the success factors that made you establish just culture in ground handling? We are running a little bit over time, Mathieu, but I wanted to give you minimum 5-7 minutes, so that's okay.
Okay, I'll make it short. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The just culture is a key point to have the staff to report effectively all what they see. And the just culture to be effective has to be well explained to the staff. From top management to middle management, the staff has to understand what leads to a normal error, let's say, and what leads to a proportionate reaction from our side. And this has to be very clear. Let me share with you just a slide that has been established with the civil aviation ages ago. Do you see my screen or not?
It's starting to build up. So
okay.
It will come. Yes, it's there.
Okay, so if I go there, this is the map of the just culture actions. Was the action realized as planned? Yes or no? And then you go to the next box, and it explains to you when you analyze the fact of a report, what goes to what needs to be done. Is it a procedure change that has need to be done? Is it a retraining of the staff? Is it a re-explanation of the staff? Or does it link to a proportionate sanction to the staff because it goes to a reckless violation or whatever? I mean, we all know the principle, so I don't go through. I stop the sharing right now with that. This document was okay. Sorry, does it?
It has disappeared from the screen. I don't know if this was your intention, Mathieu.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, I mean, it was my intention to make it disappear now because it was just to show you that this document has been prepared jointly with our civil aviation, and it's very useful. 10 years after, it's still used to explain to the staff in which box we are when we report, and what can be the consequences for that. Another point that has been lighted by Nicola, but is very important to mention as well is the fact that the staff has to understand what is done with the report they are sending to us and then to the civil aviation. It's very important. They are well aware it's not going into the wind, and the event is analyzed, that we are challenging them because we are challenged back by our civil aviation. Nicolas mentioned if the quality of the report is not meeting the criteria of satisfaction of the civil aviation, then they challenge us on the fact of the declaration, on the analysis, and sometimes we analyze jointly the events if the civil aviation needs it to be done. Another point I wanted to mention is a very good idea the French civil aviation had at the early beginning of the program. I mean, it was way before the entry in force of the reporting regulation, is to provide all the French ground handlers with the software to report. At that time, it was EASA 3 or 4, something like that. But it was very useful because it avoid a very small company to make unnecessary or inaffordable purchase, and then they had just a software to use to declare. And I think it helped a lot the civil aviation and the French civil aviation to get a lot of reports within their hands. And to conclude, to make it short for Julia, the next step for us now will be very interesting is to, the staff is really demanding about their position into the whole ecosystem. Now we give them back the vision of their safety performance, but it's only within our company. They now are asking and pushing us to provide them with the data of national data. Where are they into the national safety performance? And also, where are we within the whole European community in terms of safety? Are we above? Are we under? How do we perform? What can we do to be greater? So I think this is for all of us. The next step to consider is how to get all this data to be disseminated back to the staff that reports, because this is their jobs. We looked at the beginning of the session in terms of figures.
Thank you so much. This was very interesting, Mathieu, also that you said that none of the reports go into the wind. So actually the staff need to know what happens with my report, what's the outcome, and then they need to understand how you as the company have taken it on board and what you have done. And even better, the last point you mentioned, the staff also want to know, and the company probably as well, want to know how do we benchmark, how do we compare with other organizations, with our competitors, or across the other European states, if we look at France as a country. So I think this is also then triggering this intrinsic motivation that people always have to be competitive and to want to be better. That's a smart idea to actually provide data where you can benchmark yourself, because as we all know, no man or no woman is an island, and we also want to see how others are doing the same thing that we are doing, and how we are comparing with how they are doing things. So that was quite interesting from your side, and also telling us that actually France supported you in the beginning with the software, with a tool, so that you as a company could use, so that your staff could easily make it as easy as possible for them to report. Nowadays, we are looking at apps on the mobile phone, for example, but in those days, I guess it was very important that the authority provided to you the infrastructure, right? So you
Definitely.
So you could actually achieve your goals to increase occurrence reporting. So thank you. That was a good insight from the authority and from the industry side as well. I'm seeing more questions popping up. Please just use the voting button, so we will definitely address those comments that are most important. I also see a lot of chats going back and forth. in the meantime sharing links. So that shows that you are very engaged. We still have 382 participants, and that's great that you use this webinar function, even though we can't see you, to engage with each other. I think that's really helpful, and it shows the good spirit of collaboration that we have in aviation. I would now like to move to our last topic, which is training, and it was already mentioned several times during the presentations we had seen from Milan, from Menzies, also when we looked at the example from France, the point of training was heavily emphasized, and that's why we have decided to move to the most important point as well at the end, looking at training and qualification solutions. We have actually quite strict and clear rules on training in aviation in the aerodrome environment. This is all based on the regulatory framework for aerodrome safety. But we want to hear now from practitioners like Daphne van Hifte from Brussels Airport and also Björn van den Einde from ETF, the European Transport Workers Federation, how they have actually implementing these requirements and why they make sense to them or why they don't make sense to them as well. So the first question is to you, Daphne, as an airport operator, like in all the other aviation sectors, you of course struggle to recruit new people. And then once you have recruited them and hopefully you can keep them, you also need to train them. And that's of course an additional challenge. So how do you actually manage that challenge at Brussels Airport? How to comply with these training requirements that are quite rigid, and how you actually then assess whether your strategy, your training policy is successful in making sure that you can have qualified and well-trained people. So the floor is yours, Daphne.
Thank you very much, Julia. Good morning to the audience. Thank you for having me representing Brussels Airport. I have not that a lot of time to explain you the full story, but I can reach out already. Who wants to have more information, more elaborate information, can always contact us later after the conference. It's kind of a philosophy that I want to share with you that we have implemented here in Brussels to meet the requirements for compliance with the proficiency check program. So proficiency check programs are well known in the flying community and also in the community of air traffic controllers. But before some years, it was rather unknown and unpracticed in the aerodrome operator and ground handling operator environment. So when the requirements were published, we had quite a challenge in front of us. And to convince our management, the people who we are working with, but also the people we are collaborating with from the unions, we had to find support from everybody and a clear understanding of what the purpose is of a proficiency check program. And that is not simple because the challenges, as I said, are there from a financial perspective because you need to organize, that has a cost. You need to hire people. You need to work in time, so that has also a cost. You need to develop training programs for the proficiency checkers, etc., etc. So from that perspective, we had to convince as well. But then the people that are in scope of proficiency checking must be convinced as well that it brings added value to safety. And so what was the philosophy that we applied? That is that we organized ourselves and we go and visit the people who are doing the job outside. They are really doing great work, great jobs, and they also wake up in the morning to get safe back at home after a hard working day. So we visit the people, we talk with them, we interview them, and we ask them if it is feasible to do the job in a correct, compliant, and safe way, applying their procedures they have available and working according to the training they have received. Because only then, by knowing that, by learning from that, we can make sure that they are proficient in the job and responsibilities that they do. So by applying this philosophy, people got more trust in us, in what we do. And what is important, as I heard already from the before speakers, I can confirm that the feedback loop is essential. So when we are talking with the people on the floor, doing the job, and learn from them, if the procedures are working, if they are safe, if the procedures need to be adapted, or when they need other equipment to work with and do the job in an efficient and safe way, we provide this feedback in team reports, so not individual reports, in team reports, applying just culture principles to the team managers or the people managers of this specific teams. And we explain what the people are confronted with. And so we make suggestions to the managers so that they can work on their procedures, on improvement of training, on improvement of equipment and working techniques. And then the feedback goes back to the people do the job. So in that sense, we are gaining trust. It is taking time. Some people need more time to get convinced of the good aim that we have. But eventually, I'm quite sure that we will succeed in this mission. One last note that I want to make. When you want to work in this philosophy and apply it and gain trust from the people that are doing the proficiency checks must be trained as well. So we have developed a training program with hard and soft skills, people management skills, evaluator skills, and auditor skills, so that they are well prepared to visit the people and have talks with them and learn from that. When the proficiency checkers, as from the start, would not be well trained, the mission can fail, and then you lose trust instead of gaining trust. Julia, this concludes my brief explanation on how we have implemented the proficiency check program in Brussels, and always feel free to reach out and ask questions.
Thank you so much, Dafi, for this overview of how you have implemented something that looked quite challenging and costly, and maybe even with a risk that the people would feel that you are using it, to make them to test them. But you actually turned it around and created a training approach that I think is quite remarkable by making a smart move and making sure that the staff again have the possibility to see their work environment change as a result of what you are doing, and to the better, and change it to the better. So I think that's something that is quite impressive, and that's why when we prepared for this panel, I wanted to definitely invite you from your airport to share your experience, and thank you so much for making that commitment and sharing your experience with us, and also offering the participants to provide more information if they would like to hear more. We heard that you are doing team reports, which help you then to analyze the things in teams and then to report back to management. For these proficiency checks that indeed we did not know very well in the aerodrome environment, that comes more from the air ops environment. And how the next question, actually the last question before we go to your Slido questions, is to Björn van den Ende from the European Transport Workers Federation. You are representing the personnel working in aviation, Björn, and what challenges and solutions do you see, and how we can actually train and qualify aviation staff in the context of high costs and also shortage of staff? Also, from your point of view, what are the challenges and the solutions?
Thank you, Julie, for a question. Hi, everybody. Good morning. I would like to highlight the post-COVID challenges for training and qualification in ground handling. First of all, we have to look at what we are being faced with today and in the near future. There has been an accelerated staff turnover in the sector due to the pandemic, as we all know. The coming years, more experienced staff will leave the sector due to, for instance, health issues or older workers that are retiring. Thirdly, companies are having difficulties in hiring and retaining motivated workers, and this has led to lower hiring standards. Training standards are being lowered due to the pressure to train faster to replace leavers and the ramp up for the summer season. And the lowering of standards, of course, has an impact of safety. To cope with this, we have to look at different training methods and approaches. There's no fit-for-all method taking into account the diverse working force and the given that nobody learns in the same way. Therefore, a combination of different methods has to be taken into consideration. Furthermore, it's important that we have the trainer programs reviewed and adapted where necessary. There's absolutely a need for trainer qualification. And secondly, in the field training supported by buddy programs, follow-up and refreshers using different methods should be reviewed and or extended. We have examples where the time between initial training and the actual carrying out of tasks independently is 4 months. So for instance, like a pushback newbie gets his training and then doesn't perform a pushback for 4 months. Of course, if you don't practice and don't get a chance to do your task independently, then safety will be compromised. We hope that the future ground handling regulation can help handling companies improve their training and subsequently the overall safety and operations, of course. And we're working hard towards that since 2018, and we're looking forward to the new regulation and guidance material for the sector. Thank you. That's it for me. Hope it was
Thank you
clear.
very much, Björn. Also to give your take on how training and how actually the safety culture and occurrence reporting can improve. So that was a good final remark before we go to Slido. I see that there are lots of comments in the chat. Maybe the participants have difficulties to access Slido. If you go to Slido, you need to select the aerodrome and ground handling session.
Yeah, they're not questions, they're just comments.
Yes,
and links.
no,
So
actually there's some good questions in there. I was looking at them. One was saying that ground handlers don't have enough money to invest in a lot of things. So I think that was quite a good question. But please use the Slido. We have difficulties to work with so many different entry levels, especially only the Slido allows you to vote for questions. So we really tackle the ones that are the most interesting for you and not the most interesting for me. That's why I would now like to, for the remaining couple of minutes, I'd like to take up the question that is most interesting for you, the 370 participants that are joining us on this webinar. So there is a question from Ansgar Sickert from ACI Europe that received 20 thumbs up. It's about the future ground handling regulatory setup. So the question to France, DGAC, Nicola, I'm not sure if you want to take it. Do you see the ground handling industry in Europe well prepared to implement SMS ahead of the entry into force of ground handling regulations? Probably you can't answer for the whole of Europe, but maybe you can answer for France.
Yeah, I would take it like, in fact, it depends on the size of the ground handling society. The thing is that I think that there is a state of play to do before putting the GH regulation, and the degree of maturity is very different. The maturity of SMS is very different depending, especially on the size of the society. We are not starting from nothing, okay? But the idea of the new regulation is to raise the level of the SMS, and I guess that there will be a transition period, maybe 3 years, which allow this upgrade. So that's my answer as an authority. Maybe Mathieu, you want to complete it?
Yeah, if I may say a word, as Nicolas said, we are not going from scratch. Most of the sizable organization have a certification on industry certification on SMS, like ISEGO audit program. Smaller companies, they work through the SMS of the customer airlines. Other organizations, they are well aware of SMS component part, dealing with the airport that they are working on. So this is not new for ground handling organization. Most of our organization, they have already full SMS running, or almost 90% of the parts running, and it needs a bit of oil to join all the parts together and to make it smooth for everybody. But just Nicolas, I'm not worried about it. Yeah.
Thank you very much for this input. Yes, indeed, if I may add from EASA point of view, since it's in EASA that we are developing this future regulatory framework for ground handling safety, and we are investing a lot of energy and effort into this to get it over the next line, which will then be a European regulation. Indeed, there will be a transition period, as Nicolas has said. And I also agree with Mathieu that we are already starting from a certain level. However, we all understand that occurrence reporting in general in ground handling all over Europe, maybe not so much in France, is still quite low. And this is what we have seen in the introductory slide from my colleague Florent Morel. And we also understand that since there is no requirement in Europe today to have an SMS for ground handling organization, we think that it will definitely benefit the whole European aviation safety system if the ground handling organizations will also be included into the framework and will also have to have an SMS, even so many already do. And now we actually have another question that is high up on the list here on Slido. And again, apologies, I see that many questions come in via the chat. I'm not able to go via the chat because I'd like to really give you the opportunity to vote for the most interesting questions so I can get a pulse of what is important for you, the audience here. How to develop and create a safety culture in a resistant ground handling environment that only focuses on on-time performance. Maybe we should give this one to Stuart Carmichael. There was also something in the chat, Stuart, about difficulties to actually finance innovation in ground handling. You mentioned in your presentation that you also invested heavily in new equipment. I think you mentioned 300 equipment that you had to, no, 228 new electrical equipment that you had to purchase and make available. So how do you actually develop a safety culture in such a difficult environment where, of course, costs are high?
So I think it's a really good question, and you've got to make sure that you have a balanced approach. So I think first and foremost, the messaging to the people and the messaging throughout the organisation is that the health, safety, and well-being of your frontline staff is paramount. And then obviously your customers, your airline partners, etc. But we work in a time critical logistical industry, and I think as we come out of COVID, and maybe I'm speaking just from a Menzies point of view, but I think on-time performance and key performance indicators were relaxed during the COVID period, and I think probably within the last 12 months, we're seeing that starting to ramp up, and more focus on-time performance and operational and service delivery, and that's not a bad thing, but we need to make sure that our values, our core principle is that we do that safely. We have a motto within within Menzies, which is cascaded down from the executive team, is safe then on time, and take the delay, not the Cat A. And people that are familiar with the Menzies-Morse principles knows that a category A is our most significant outcome of an event, and that's cascaded down. But I think this time round, from our side, and don't get me wrong, we're not perfect by any stretch, but we've incorporated the summer readiness within our safety management system. So this year, and obviously let's start back, 2022 was relentless in terms of, you know, the whole supply chain was challenged in terms of that bounce back. But this year we started early. We started in December and January for our summer readiness. We made sure that we incorporated key pillars within that. So, you know, what was attrition? What was our recruitment needs? How do we do the training? Do we have the GSE? Do we have the right technology to make sure that our planning and resource is in place? Because actually, if you join up all the dots, that supports the safety very much within the operation, and making sure that the delivery is there. I think it's very difficult at the moment. You know, we have lost a lot of experience, and competence is generally low within the operation. So we made a conscious decision this year to retain key people through the winter period. So we built up some of that competence within our operation, and actually that allowed us, certainly for the Milan startup, to take 60 people. And 60 people is a lot out of an existing operation that's getting ready for the summer, so in Spain and other locations, and put them into Milan for a few months to support that transition. So there's not one size fits all, but I think it's about engagement with the people. It's about the value of the organization. It's about the relationship with the customer, and it's about managing expectations. It's about working with the airport and making sure the infrastructure is there. But a key aspect is planning and preparation. And like I say, we integrated our summer readiness plans into our safety management system in Q1 of this year, started early to put us on the front foot, knowing that it was going to be, you know, a very busy and a very challenging summer. So I hope that kind of answers that question a little bit.
Yes, and I also see that Björn has his hand raised. So Björn, a short answer, please, because I still want to go to some other questions. Björn, we can't hear you.
All right, excuse me, are you hearing me? Yeah.
Yes.
Did you hear me, what I just said?
No.
Okay, I'll try to be very short. So what I said was that creating an environment of trust and respect is paramount in creating a safety culture and a just culture in ground handling companies. Just want to add that as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Then I would like to take a question on the local runway safety teams. That's what we started with at this panel. We looked at the role of local runway safety teams. We used one concrete example. So the question here is, what is the role of the member state competent authority? Do they attend the local runway safety teams? And then the person asked me to do a poll, and I've done it. So now I should launch it. But while I'm launching it, I would like to also give Marco Maderna the possibility to answer the question. So do you have your competent authority being part of your local runway safety team? And while you're answering, the participants can also answer the poll that I've just created in Slido.
Well, to give you a practical answer to this question, actually, we always invite our NIA, Civil Aviation NIA. Every month we have a safety committee, as I mentioned before, one for Mapensa, the other one for Lenate. So we kept on going, more than 20 appointments for a year. On top of this, local running safety team, at least 3-4 for a year. It very much depends, to give you an answer, what is the topic, the main topic that we have to discuss. NIA is always on the invitation list, but then of course, I mean, according to the agenda and the planning of the meeting, they might come or they might not participate. However, what is important to me to underline is that we always have a very direct line and sharp line with our NIA, as we almost daily keep in touch for everything related to the safety operation. So whether they are not attending physically our local runway safety team, either they are already aware or they will be aware in the next hour. So I would say yes, they are participating, maybe not physically, but they are.
So underlying this principle of transparency, even if they don't participate anyways, afterwards, you are sharing the experience with them and they have full access to the lessons learned and what you are doing. So the poll just, I'm going to close it now, but we have how many? 53 votes. So thank you very much for your votes. So 51% say yes, your authority is involved in your local runway safety team. 60% says I don't know, and 33% says no, they are not involved. So I think we can now close this poll. I just did that poll quickly to gauge the feedback from the audience. Now let's move back to the Q&A. There was a question here that was about, hold on, where are we now? There was a question here that was from Adina Soni from EASA to France again. How often do you update the risk map emerging from occurrence reports? I would like to give this opportunity to France to just clarify quickly how often do you update this risk map that you mentioned?
Yeah, a simple question, a simple answer. Every 5 years.
Every 5 years, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So every 5 years, this risk map is updated, and then you're doing this collaboratively with the industry and with the stakeholders, right?
That's
This is
it.
understood. I think that's also important to point out.
Mm-hmm.
Then, is there another good? Is there a question here that one of the panelists would like to take before we close our session? Maybe you have seen a question that you'd like to answer. This is now to you, the panelists here, the speakers.
If I may answer a question from Laura Martins that said, have you been dealing with staff that believes that reporting occurrence will lead them to being asked to leave? Yes, every day. And when you speak to the staff, and when the staff is coming to you saying, I saw a hole into this wing and I think it's not normal, your question cannot be, did you are you responsible for this hole? Your answer must be, well done. You spotted here safety issue, and you will probably save 300 lives that are flying with this aircraft. And then you associate this stuff to the inquiries, and if is involved, then you take the necessary actions. But the first reaction is to make them understand why they should spot, why they should report, and the safety aim is very important. They have to be well aware they are part of the process. They are not beside from the early beginning.
Thank you very much for picking up this question. I think you made a really good point that there needs to be a rewarding system, and you need to always say thank you very much for reporting this and giving the context why this is important. Actually, aviation safety is not a theoretic principle. It's very practical because indeed, like you said, it saves lives. And that's something that actually we all should subscribe to and be grateful for when somebody points out something to us that can improve safety. Absolutely. So thank you for that, picking up this question, Mathieu. I have a question to Duffy van Hufte from Brussels Airport. Duffy, have you, in your innovative approach to proficiency check assessment, have you also learned things that have helped you to improve your safety culture at Brussels Airport, or that have helped you to increase your occurrence reporting at Brussels Airport? Is this something that has come as a side benefit of this new proficiency check exercise, or do you say no, it was not really helping that much in that regard?
Well, to be very clear, we have started off with the implementation of this way of working some months ago, but we have already nice lessons that we can learn from the deployment of the program in some units where we do it. We apply it already in aircraft rescue and firefighting. We have applied it in the what we call standing gate allocation, the apron management services. And yes, when you are able to really explain what the aim is of your visit, what the aim is of the questions you ask to the people, and that they really feel invited to debate on things that to their opinion can be improved, but where potentially nobody before was listening to, or where the communication channels were quite far away, because most of the time management is working in headquarter offices. People are doing the job in 24/7 regime. They do not see each other a lot of times. This is really shortening the feedback chain. And then when you really take the information that they provide you with you, and you give feedback in teams and groups, and they see the management of the teams are really working with that, it gains trust. And trust is trust and respect also, as many of the other panelists already said, trust and respect is basis for safety culture.
Okay, so thank you very much for also pointing to us that you had some benefits here. I would like to now wrap up this panel, and I would really like to thank the speakers again. We had excellent speakers letting us see how they actually implement safety in practice, and we used concrete examples, opening a terminal, becoming a new ground handling organization, increasing occurrence reporting in France, and finally also making sure that a new requirement like proficiency checks in aerodromes that was actually not there before and that people struggled with in the beginning, you found innovative, smart solutions that helped you to increase your safety and also efficiency, and to make sure that the staff feel also involved and they know that this actually benefits them rather than creating just costs for no added value. And thank you so much for giving us these insights. I'm very humbled and impressed by what you were able to share with us in such a short time. Also, the audience engaged with us quite a lot. The motto here of this panel in aerodrome and ground handling safety clearly was transparency, teamwork, and trust. Transparency, because we learned that it is important we share the data. Teamwork, nothing will work if in aviation we don't work together. We are not an island, an aerodrome island, a ground handling island, an ATM island, and an air operator island. The only way that we can solve things, like we have seen with the example of Milan Airport, is that we work together in a collaborative spirit, and we work together to make sure that the system works better and as efficiently as possible, especially since the summer is coming upon us. So transparency, teamwork, and finally, the most important element of all, in my opinion, is trust. If we have no trust culture, we will have no reporting. As you have said, Mathieu, just now, the first thing you have to do is to acknowledge and reward the person and say thank you for reporting to me. That is the most important thing, that people can trust you with their reports and they don't feel personal consequences when they do so. So that is actually what we can have learned today, that transparency, teamwork, and trust is key for the system to work, to improve, and to enable us to meet these various challenges that you have also put in the chat and into the Slido. And unfortunately, we cannot provide answers today to all of your chats and comments, but we were able to quickly do a poll at least, and you were able to get provide some feedback. So thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. Again, to the speakers, thank you also to my colleague here from EASA, Florent, to give us the European data analysis, and to my colleagues here at EASA who are supporting us from the safety promotion team, John Franklin. Thank you very much for organizing this webinar. So to all the speakers and to all of you participants, 325 still listening to us, thank you very much from EASA and for myself, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye.